My name is Evelyn Irons, and I am standing in the Lyell Avenue Library Branch Garden. And the name of this garden is a community garden for hope. And the reason why we have it as the community garden for hope is because everyone that comes to the library, we're hoping that they take an opportunity to engage with the garden because it's accessible not only to the people that are coming to the library, but that are people that are coming by. So this is a garden of engagement, hope and engagement. My role in the garden is the coordinator. We have two other individuals, including some of the garden staff, that comes in and does watering. The city maintenance takes care of the grounds around the garden. We take care of the contents within the garden and the watering of the garden. My history with urban agriculture starts as a child. I come from a very large family, so everywhere we moved, even living in the projects, we had a garden. So in respect to a garden, it could be a container garden. But our role as children was to water that garden. And in the amazement of it all, we did that every single year. So when we moved into our home, we had an empty lot next to our home. That lot became a garden. And so therefore we had sort of like, we lived off that lot. A lot of it is culturally a cultural necessity, simply because my mother came from a background of gardening. And so we are our parents, whether we want to admit it or not, but they plant the seeds at an early age on the things that we do and how we do them. So my story starts really, really young. I have never not had a garden. So it would be foreign to me to not have some type of vegetables growing. And also we did a lot of flowering, right? So we had a lot of flower gardens. Like we had a lot of flowering plants all around our house. So if you look back at the history of people of color, many of them grew up gardening. A part of their life was gardening, not only for the negative slave mentality, but it was also for them to eat. And that was passed on to me generation after generation. It's so ironic when I go visit family members outside of Rochester, they all have a garden. So I know that the seed was planted and early on in my life, and so therefore I have personal gardens at home, right? I have a garden here, and any garden that I see, I want to help out. And so my goal is to get a farm. A garden is nice, but we need a farm for our community. But that's my history. The events and the opportunity to engage started really early on with Taproot. So we started going to the workshops over at Taproot. I was not familiar with UAG at the time. Taproot introduced me to that world. We would go over to the First Street location. We would attend the workshops there. But then the engagement for our garden started with the youth employment that came over and did a lot of wonderful work in our garden. But I think it's more important to talk about that type of engagement and what it really means to a garden. When you talk about someone coming in from the outside, seeing your garden for the first time, whether it's youth or adults, you get some new ideas, you get innovation. People started to talk about what works one place and doesn't work somewhere else. What they did in this particular, what Taproot did for us was give us that second look, right? You know how you have a second set of eyes look at something? That second set of eyes that looked over at our garden gave us a lot of hope that we can expand on this garden, right? So really they came in and made a lot of wonderful changes. They changed the podiums and the displays that's in front of our garden. They gave us some character, but most of all, they gave us some hope. And so therefore, we now plan to expand our garden in a way that is benefits from the workshops that we've learned from Taproot, but also will benefit the community. So that's what they gave us. If I had $5,000 to spend on gardening in the Lyell-Otis community, I would use it as a way to start our farm. And the reason why I want a farm, there's a twofold to this. First of all, we're a food desert, so they use different terms now. We are a food desert. There is no grocery store here, so many of the people that live here are eating food that's supplied from corner stores, from fast food restaurants, and they're not getting the nutritional value that they need. What a farm does versus a garden is, a farm is bigger, right? Our garden is very small here. So half of that money would be to expand the garden, right? Here by adding raised beds for people with disabilities, by adding new raised beds, the lower raised beds, and giving the kids the opportunity to come to our garden. So we want it to be kid friendly. That's the farm itself would be, like I said, twofold earlier. One part of it would be to feed the community. The other part of it would be to acknowledge some of the loss we've had in our community, right? So it should be serene enough that it gives us somewhat of a peace to those people that have been impacted by some of the crime in our community. And the example for that is that you can always have a memorial part of your garden, and you memorialize the person of how they lived, not how they died. And so that's one of the big things for me, right? So that when those families who we hope to adopt as a part of our garden to start to volunteer, that they come over to pay some respect to their loved ones, they're not thinking about how they died, but how they lived. Like even if they were adult in their 40s, at some point they had interest. So I was thinking about having a plaque wall that would allow them to put some type of icon or symbol next to a person's name. Maybe they like to cook, maybe they like to play sports, and baseball or something like that. That would bring more engagement to the garden. So we're going to feed them. We're feeding the body, but we're also going to try to feed the soul.